It was a cold morning in late November when I first realized that my life was about to change forever. My name is Rebecca Hayes, and I grew up in a small town in Ohio. I had always imagined a simple life for myself: marriage, children, a cozy home, and a future filled with laughter. For the most part, I had it. I was married to Daniel, and we had a beautiful son named Ethan, who was only 8 years old at the time. To the outside world, we looked like a picture-perfect family. But what happens behind closed doors often tells a much different story. Daniel and I had been together since our early 20s. We built our life from scratch, working long hours, saving every penny, and dreaming about the future we wanted for Ethan. 4 years, Daniel was my rock, the one person I trusted with every part of myself. But as time went on, small cracks began to appear. He became distant, his late nights grew more frequent, and the warmth that once filled our home slowly started to fade. I told myself it was just stress from work, that once things calmed down, we would find our rhythm again. But then one evening, as I was putting Ethan to bed, my phone buzzed. It was a message from a friend who had seen Daniel out in town, holding hands with another woman. At first, I refused to believe it. Daniel wasn't perfect, but he wasn't careless either. The next day, I confronted him. He denied everything, telling me people were trying to stir up drama. But deep down, I knew the truth. Something had shifted between us, and no amount of denial could cover it. Over the following months, I noticed things I had once overlooked: the lingering smell of perfume that wasn't mine, the hushed phone calls in the garage, the sudden defensiveness when I asked simple questions. My heart broke a little more each day, but my biggest concern wasn't me, it was Ethan. I had grown up in a broken home, and I knew the scars it left behind. I didn't want my son to carry that same pain. One night, Ethan crawled into bed with me after having a nightmare. He whispered, "Mom, are you and Dad mad at each other?" I froze. Children always notice more than we think. I pulled him close and said, "No matter what happens, you'll always be loved." In that moment, I knew that whatever decision I made about my marriage, it had to be about him, not just me. The breaking point came on Ethan's birthday. We had planned a small party at home, inviting his closest friends and family. I baked his favorite cake, decorated the living room with balloons, and tried my best to make everything perfect. Daniel promised he'd be there on time, but hours passed and he never showed up. When he finally walked through the door, the party was almost over. His excuse: he was stuck at work. But I saw the lipstick stain on his shirt, faint but undeniable. My heart dropped, and all the trust that had barely been holding on completely shattered. That night, after Ethan went to bed, I confronted Daniel again. This time, he admitted it. He had been seeing someone else for months. He claimed he hadn't meant to hurt me, that he just needed something different. His words cut deeper than any blade ever could. I realized then that the man I once loved was no longer the same person standing in front of me. I spent weeks torn between anger, heartbreak, and fear for my son's future. Divorce felt like failure, but staying in a broken marriage felt worse. I prayed, journaled, and even sought advice from a counselor. Each time, the answer became clearer. I had to make a choice, not for myself, but for Ethan. I had to show him that love meant respect, that betrayal had consequences, and that strength sometimes means walking away. The day I told Daniel I wanted a divorce was one of the hardest of my life. He was shocked, maybe because he thought I'd never actually leave. He begged me to reconsider, but my decision was final. I wasn't just protecting myself, I was protecting my son. The months that followed were difficult. Court dates, paperwork, long conversations with Ethan where I tried to explain things in a way his young mind could understand. There were tears, many of them, but also small victories. Ethan and I grew closer than ever. We started new traditions, like Saturday morning pancakes and evening walks around the neighborhood. Slowly, our home began to feel peaceful again. One day, Ethan looked up at me and said, "Mom, you're stronger than anyone I know." Those words brought tears to my eyes because in that moment, I realized he saw me not just as his mother, but as someone he could learn from. The pain I went through was worth it if it meant showing him what true strength looked like. Over time, Daniel faded from our lives. He saw Ethan occasionally, But his priorities were elsewhere. I let go of the anger and focused on building a better future for my son. I went back to school, earned a degree, and eventually started a career I loved. Life didn't turn out the way I once imagined, but in many ways, it turned out better. Looking back, I know I made the right choice. Betrayal nearly broke me, but it also gave me the chance to rebuild. I became someone stronger, someone braver, someone my son could be proud of. The day I had to make that tough choice for Ethan was the day I truly found myself. And now, years later, I tell this story not with bitterness, but with gratitude. Because sometimes, the hardest choices we make are the ones that shape us the most.